Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ben Crossman, and I hope all of you are having a fantastic day and, hey, ready to head off into the weekend, happy, healthy, and, have some fun. But before you do, we, of course, have an entire hour of Computer America for you, where today on the program, no guest, we will have a full segment of computer and technology news, which, a lot of stories that we can really sink our teeth into, including, speaking of sinking teeth into, what about an Apple? And actually multiple Apple stories, not all of them, kind of making Apple look too good. But, we're going to get into a lot of that, as well as what the TSA is doing, what Tesla's doing. We have some others, including research done over quantum computers to see if they're actually any good. All that and more coming up here on the program. But before we go any further, computeramerica.com, that's where you'll find everything and anything having to do with today's show. So be that, the show notes, any articles, videos, reviews, anything you want to hear about, don't worry, we got you covered right there at computeramerica.com. Also, while you're there, check out the social media contest as well as the live video stream, which you can also find with an attached chat room at twitch.tv/Computer America. Now, why don't we go ahead, get this kicked off, and just get today's show rolling and get into computer and technology news. Here we go. Everyone, why don't we start off with this, just a slew of Apple, and we're going to start with this one because this one was reported yesterday, and I really wanted to get to the bottom of this myself. This one seemed interesting because it was Apple really picking up a grievance and then having law enforcement, and not just any law enforcement, but ICE actually enforcing, what it is that they were doing. So we're going to see if this is actually legit or what happened here. But this article is coming to us from iPhone in Canada. So pretty new to the publication, but iPhone Canada, NYC Repair Tech says Apple and U.S. Customs seized his batteries following a CBC story. That's right. And this is by Gary Eng. He is published just today, or actually, within the past 24 hours, saying that New York City's Louis Rossman, a computer repair technician who participated in CBC's news investigation into Apple repair practices, shares how a recent battery order he placed was seized by U.S. Customs and Apple. So this is obviously coming on the heels of a couple of different things. The first one primarily being the fact that Apple and a number of other companies have been taking the issue to court on whether or not people are allowed to repair their products. This, of course, I hope this has nothing to do with that, but the fact that this gentleman ordered, I believe, about 20 MacBook batteries. And we'll see. So in a video posted to YouTube, Rossman claimed just a few days after the national segment aired, a shipment of 20 MacBook batteries were seized. And as he says in the video, stolen from him by U.S. Customs and who are apparently working with Apple. Who knew Apple, the trillion-dollar company, had their own arm of U.S. Customs? But Rossman claims he imports legitimate Apple MacBook batteries, but because of Apple markings on the batteries, they were deemed counterfeit and seized. He imports legitimate Apple MacBook batteries, but because they bared the Apple logo, they deemed them counterfeit and seized. The repair tech says it's a crazy coincidence. This happened after years and years of ordering batteries that I get this notice from after the CBC piece. Essentially, he's saying that because he is a repair technician, he often orders parts, and he's been doing this for years. And then, a little while after this, he gets his first shipment seized and confiscated, saying that the 20 MacBook batteries are worth about $1,000, and that in his video, he tells his audience and Apple he plans to fight this ruling, saying that, quote, "Make no mistake, I am no Apple customer. I'm not an Apple customer. I do not take being ripped off nicely." Obviously, not very happy with Apple. You can see why. He said that I don't care if I have to spend $50,000 in legal fees to get back my $1,000 worth of batteries. This is principle. Apple, you are not going to get away with this, and don't think I don't notice the timing on this stuff. And they even include a link to the video there. You can find it here embedded within the article. But it's pretty crazy. He says that Rossman says Apple won't get away with this, concluding he's ready to fight back against the company and expose how it really treats its customers. The New York City repair technician is no stranger to Apple, saying that back in 2016, he said his repair videos on YouTube were under threat of being taken down after a legal threat from Apple. The technician has posted videos sharing how to repair MacBooks on the board level, which also includes details on showing you how to down to showing alleged schematics on cameras deemed a controversial move. So this again ties into what I mentioned earlier and by the way, that's the end of the article. Great piece. Just kind of laid out the facts there. But this folds into what we were discussing about the right to repair. And there are gentlemen such as, Louis Rossman, who want to repair these computers, don't want to throw them away, don't want to send them to a landfill. But at the same time, in some cases, Apple won't repair older MacBooks, MacBooks and MacBook Pros, or in other cases, they'll charge just way too much to do simple repairs, such as replacing batteries. It's it's very, very, it shows why they want the right to repair or why they shouldn't be trusted when at face value. Because the other part, he mentioned showing schematics for cameras and boards and things like that. Apple's arguments for the right to repair is that they're able to lock their system down. And that means that security-wise, people aren't going to be able to install third-party products or hack into these things. Essentially, the more lockdown, the less the individual person is allowed to fix, repair, tinker with their Apple product, the more secure Apple becomes as a whole. That is kind of their argument for doing this. Now, it's a completely different matter whether or not you should be able to stop bringing in Apple imports at the border. I believe that the reason that this happened, or at least other justification I've seen on this matter, not just this particular instance with these 20 batteries, but a lot of shipments from China, mainly Chinese made products. And trust me, it goes to an extreme. I'm sure you can go out there and look up the Apple toaster. People in China, they will manufacture products en masse, slap the Apple logo on them, and call it the iToaster or the Apple toaster, and try to sell these products to different distributors. And, sometimes it makes sense. Sometimes they are Apple repair parts, such as batteries or screens or things like that. Although they are counterfeit, they are of poor quality, and they go through a couple different steps before they go from China to other parts of the world. And Apple has fought these counterfeits before because, that's just the way that our patent system works here in this country. If you don't actively take a role in defending your patents and trademarks, you effectively lose them. You give up the rights to defend them in the future because you can't pick and choose who gets to infringe and who doesn't. You have to be rabid about this. I think it's unfortunate. I'm betting, and this is without any kind of research and just a hunch, I'm betting that he purchased these parts, as you said, for years from a third-party reseller, not from Apple directly, but they are Apple approved, and I'm sure because he repairs these things and he has intimate knowledge, he is not going to put shoddy parts into other people's equipment, but undoubtedly they're from other retailers because I don't think Apple, I think they have like a partner program, but I don't think that they actually sell the parts en masse to fix these things. You have to kind of partner with them and, become an Apple licensed repairer. Again, Apple controlling the whole supply chain from selling the product to repairing the product and, beginning to end of the entire life cycle. But I'm betting he bought it from a third-party user. Apple, for some reason, the timing is very coincidental. Maybe they were on the lookout for these parts that he was talking about. But, maybe Apple has renewed their efforts to crack down on counterfeit Apple-branded products coming into the country, and this was seized mistakenly. Or hey, even on purpose. That could totally be a possibility. Now, and let's see. And by the way, let's see, Chapman, did you know about new stuff? Nonsense. Yeah, and so all that and more, all this coming from Apple, and just, again, a side effect of the idea of right to repair. So there's that story. I hope that he gets his batteries back. $1,000, for a business, I'm sure one of his size, it's that's not the end of the world. But at the same time, just because the company is worth $1 trillion and is able to throw their weight around, doesn't mean that they should be able to get away with anything, steal, and just take it away. And let's see, actually comment in chat room, how can it be a counterfeit if it is an original battery? Well, he was buying these batteries, and it was a shipment of, it was a recent battery order he placed, and these were 20 MacBook batteries were seized, as he said, stolen from me. I mentioned this just a couple seconds ago. This is a hunch. Not many people or at least repair people order their products directly from Apple, because Apple charges an arm and a leg, and to verify that everything stays within code or whatever, you keep your warranty, you essentially kind of send in your product to Apple, where then they put their products in and they fix it, they seal it back up, charge you an arm and a leg, and otherwise just there's no real wiggle room to run a business and send your products off to Apple. So again, just a hunch. I'm betting that this gentleman had a good reseller. He says he's been doing this for years. I'm sure after the first shipment, he would never order from them again if they were bad batteries. He ordered the batteries from a third-party reseller, and that were, completely up to spec, but Apple and Customs, or at least I should say Customs on behalf of Apple, sees these products as a counterfeit product, which are so rampant here in the United States. Because again, these companies know, as soon as you slap the eye indication or the Apple logo or anything Apple related, their suddenly, $20 battery suddenly becomes a $100 battery because there is that markup that Apple is very famous for. So, yep, and yeah, and you're right. So the only way to buy a battery is from someone else, correct? So there you go. I think we're going to stop there, but we are going to continue with the Apple news. There's other Apple stories here. I might actually reach out to Louis Rossman, see if he wants to join us on the show here and talk about what goes into fixing these computers for continued maintenance, because Apple, along with, I'm sure, every other company, loves planned obsolescence. They want you to throw away your computer after 5 years. They want your computer to have an end-of-life cycle. But people such as Lewis and many, many others out there are refurbishing computers, giving them a second life, and that's not within these companies' best interest. So I'd love to get him on the show, talk to him, and see what he feels about his side of the story and whether or not this is Apple with their whole right to repair idea. But okay, there's that one. Again, link in the show notes. We'll include that there. But we have other Apple stories I also want to get to, and to show that Apple's legal obligations do not begin and end with U.S. Customs and law enforcement. There's also the idea of patent trolls. This is something that happens often, hopefully less and less so as the courts wisen up and see that the patent side of technology is getting abused. But here we go, an article from Engadget, Mr. Daniel Cooper, and talking about, FaceTime. It's that service that to put it very simply, if you've never used FaceTime before, think of it like a video Skype call, and exclusively through your iPhone. From iPhone to iPhone. I'm sure it gets a little bit more technical behind the scenes, but it's a video call from person to person. Not that complicated. In fact, was it the first instance that I recall, because I was only about 5, was watching the original Pokemon episodes come out on TV, and hey, the main character was calling his parents through a video screen. The idea to call someone and not just hear them but see them has long been around. But patent trolls, they know no bounds, and they are looking for a quick payday. Now, Apple patent troll strikes again with a FaceTime lawsuit. And this is not the first time that we've heard from this particular patent troll. So they said that for such a genial component of Apple's ecosystem, FaceTime certainly attracts a lot of lawsuits from interested bodies, saying that one from Unilock, a company with a collection of patents, a hotline to its lawyers, and very little else. They said that Apple Insider is reporting that the patent troll has filed a request for jury trial, accusing Apple of infringing its intellectual property. So for those of you who do not know what a patent troll is, that is someone, or rather an LLC in most cases, because they don't want these things linked to the individual, but they're companies that go out and patent extremely stupid stuff, or in some cases, extremely broad ideas, in hopes that filing a patent, which costs really next to nothing compared to what you can sue for, they collect very basic things, such as a phone is a square device with rounded corners, and boom, you get a patent that's approved. Suddenly, every phone on the market is within violation of your patent. Or take, for instance, here is a device that uses cell phone signals to connect users over a microphone and a speaker and whatever. Essentially, you just patented a phone. At its face value, very obvious, they are never intending to actually capitalize on whatever patent that they are awarded. But what they do is they take other companies to court who have put out a product, who have tried to actually innovate, something that patents were designed to do, and they milk them for all the legal fees that they possibly can, drag them through the courts, and it's just a horrid process. Well, this might be another case. The patent in question here, they said the patent in question here is one that was filed back in 2003 and covers how a pair of devices can communicate with one another on a packet-based network. That's right, a pair of devices, so two devices, and they speak to one another using packet-based network. Ladies and gentlemen, in 2003, the internet was a known entity. I remember playing computer games. Trust me, packet loss was a real thing, and the idea of using packets to communicate, i.e. how the internet works, is not something that is, that was really even new or innovative or needed to be patented. But here we are, saying that it was granted in 2013 and bounced between 3Com, HP, and Hewlett-Packard Development before getting picked up by Unilock. So this was something that obviously other companies, they did not find a reasonable way to enforce this patent. Because if you enforce a patent, you are indeed subject to a lot of royalties. But all these different actual reputable companies did not find a way to do so. Now, in its third legal broadside, that Unilock, which has a record of flinging lawsuits at everyone in the tech industry, has fired at Apple in the last month, saying that they also had a spat over AirDrop file sharing system back in last October, or at least this October. Let's see. So Unilock is pushing for a jury trial to determine an unspecified quantity of damages, as well as getting its costs covered and general edition compensation, which is legalese for whatever it can bilk out of the California giant. Not much to this. I mean, it just goes to show that when you're worth $1 trillion, there are people out there who are going to try to find every little way to get money out of you. Be it, as the last story showed, slap your logo on their crappy product and upcharge and, try to take away from your legitimate sales. Or or in this case, how they're just going to take a patent that was unenforceable back in 2013 and spin it around and say that Apple has done untold damages to my company that has never produced a product in its life, and they have to pay for it. I found that one pretty interesting, and just really wanted to highlight that patent trolls are indeed still abound. They patented hot water. You would wish. And yeah, and again, the heart of the story was they received this patent that was filed in 2003. It was awarded in 2013, and they picked it up recently for two devices who can communicate on a network using packets to transmit information, i.e. really every kind of any kind of network out there. But I digress. It was a pretty silly story. So I hope that the courts are tech savvy enough that they don't let that one go on, because if it goes to a judge that and trust me, these companies that file these frivolous lawsuits or these patent trolls, they know which courthouses are more likely to rubber stamp lawsuits because they are not tech savvy. They will in fact move their entire operation down the street from said courthouses so that they can rubber stamp their lawsuits and let them go in front of a jury. And potentially a jury also confused about what is happening here because, they have experts and witnesses and, all this other kind of confusing tech stuff, hopefully confuse a jury that doesn't truly understand what's going on. And yeah, it's an entire industry. It's a very cottage industry. So there you go. We have one more Apple story here. I'm not going to do it, but I do need to clarify. We reported on this about a week ago. We're going to include the article. This is by BuzzFeed, but it's been a couple other places. Essentially, Tim Cook, CEO of Apple, you may know him. He is asking for the Bloomberg report to be retracted over the Chinese spy chip story. So we reported on that one from Bloomberg about a week ago that certain manufacturers within the supply chain of servers, of server racks, server storage, and hard drives. Essentially, they had microchips, like literally the size of a grain of rice, were embedded within the cases of these hard drives and were spying for whatever reason, either the Chinese government. The article clearly didn't get involved in that, but they did say that it was possible that this was corporate espionage on a very high level, or at least a very widespread level. And so Tim Cook is asking them to retract the story. Bloomberg, I believe, is still standing by its reporting, although I'm hearing more and more intel personnel, either from the U.S. government or other places, they are backing up Apple and on this one. And I think it was Apple and Amazon also was caught up in this. But essentially, Bloomberg, they do a lot of great reporting. But this one is looking more and more like, instead of, if the entire industry is coming out against you saying that this is patently false, and you're saying, well, we did our research, it's hard to believe that one company is going to be right when it's against when it's against multiple companies who have no allegiance to one another. And so I did not want to get through this whole article. It's a very long, very well-researched article. But essentially, it's looking more and more the case that Bloomberg indeed is just a lone voice saying that this actually happened. So whether it did, whether it didn't, I'm sure more information will come out. But as of this point, I'm willing to say that this probably didn't happen. And there you go. There's that one. So let's see. Tech is going kind of crazy lately. Phones with 10 gigs of RAM, prices going higher and higher. And actually, and by the way, everyone, that was a comment in the chat room. I actually do agree about, tech is going kind of crazy lately. Phones with 10 gigabytes of RAM, prices are going higher and higher. Things such as that. I've talked about that with a couple of our correspondents here on the show, and I agree and kind of disagree at the same time that prices are going up. The idea that you need a $1,400 iPhone when just 2 generations ago, the highest you could go was $1,000. A 40% increase in like two years, it's, to a lot of people would seem insane. But it really does make sense because we're asking so much of our phone. Like, it's always been kind of a personal policy of mine to spend where you spend your most time. So I'm in front of my computer for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours a day, either for work or for pleasure, and either for gaming and things like that. So when it came to, time to purchase, the chair you see behind me, I paid for that in full. And normally I was used to either hand-me-down chairs from when I was growing up, or, the cheapest Office Depot, Office Max chair. I was used to really only spending, $30, $40, $50 a chair. But then when you realize that you're spending 8 hours a day in your chair, spend that kind of money and you won't regret it. And honestly, I haven't. I really do enjoy this chair. I think consumers are starting to get the same way with their technology. Telling someone 4 years ago that they're going to be spending $1,400 on an iPhone, they would say, "No way, Jose, I would never do that." Or let's just say $1,200 on a Samsung phone. They would say, "No way, that's way too much." But more and more research is coming out that people are looking at their phone, I think every 12 minutes. They get like 600 messages a day through their phone, either through application updates or text messages or things like that. They're spending hours a day on these little devices in our pocket, or not so little in some cases. It's okay that these phones are getting better hardware, better equipment. They are lasting longer in terms of battery life. And unfortunately, a side effect of that is that you pay more for it because people are using it more. It's just, it makes sense. So the specs are going up, the prices are going up. There's a whole conversation to be had whether or not those two are properly linked if the prices are going up enough to justify the hardware changes. But I can see why both of those trends are kind of going up and up and up. And I don't see that stopping anytime soon. Don't quote me on it, but there have been instances of like $10,000 collectible phones, and those are just, kind of short order run, made out of solid gold, so on and so forth. I would not be surprised to see phones take the place of kind of high-end laptops, and you start to see $15, $16, up to $2,000 phones here in the next couple of years. It's a very real possibility. So everyone, more computer and technology news. When we come right back, the music means we're going to take a break, just 2 or 3 minutes. Everyone, stay tuned. More right after this.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. That's 800-215-4461.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
Welcome back to the Computer America Show. It is 32 minutes past the hour as we continue on. And everyone, if you missed any part of today's show so far, we've been doing computer and technology news. Check out our podcast, where it's today's show in its entirety, rebroadcast wherever podcasts are heard. Now, of course, by the way, if you're just joining us, welcome into the program. And we're doing computer and technology news, where I think our next story we're going to do some fun stories. How about this? Let's talk about the Internet of Smells. Self-claimed, but I'm sure completely unoriginal. So this is from Motherboard, and we're going to get in this real quick. But So with the advent of virtual reality, you have instances where you are trying to project a virtual reality to people. And it's pretty easy for a couple of your senses to be tricked. Obviously, you put a screen in front of your eyes, you are tricking your sense of sight, and you look like you're in a different place. If you want to put headphones on, you can trick your ears. Suddenly, you are hearing whatever it is that they want you to hear. Let's see. There's touch, where you have haptic feedback, as well as, of course, kind of these gloves that they're working on. Those are less common. They do have them available to consumers, but it's not as it's not as widespread as some of the other uses. So that leaves two senses: taste and smell. And until they ask you to chew on a corner of your laptop that they have specially fitted with, taste sensors, instead, or maybe even some kind of like wearable tongue cover. But until then, the next one that it looks like they're working on is the sense of smell. And researchers want to send smells over the internet. Bath and Body Works have gone insane. I'm kidding. It's not Bath and Body Works, but you can tell that there might be some applications where smelling things over the internet would be very, very attractive to some companies and some industries. So, and you can see it there. We're gonna go ahead and play the video while we kind of talk about it here. But essentially, it's they have a whole system and a whole lab dedicated to being able to interface with a user and provide smells over the internet. No. Yeah, hey, it's going to happen. So they said in the future, we could huff food blogs and snort stinky Twitter feeds straight into our sinuses. So they said that he admits that's a highly exaggerated interpretation of the new research done over at the Imagineering Institute in Malaysia. They've designed a concept for smelling digital content like restaurant menu items or a florist rose bouquet using electrical stimulation directly up your nozzles. So luckily or unluckily, this is not simply, this is obviously not suitable for consumers by any means. No one is going to stick electrodes up their nose so that they can smell roses. That is not at all what's happening. But looks like it's something that they're researching. And can you imagine when these things get hacked? Aside from the fact that it is indeed an electrode that would connect to your sinuses directly, that can be a problem if that were hacked. But also, I'm sure you mentioned more about these smells that could be possible. And it's pretty interesting because, all right, I'm going to take that. I don't need to look inside someone's nose. But I will say that because it connects directly with your, with your sinuses, you would be able to overload them. Like, think about the worst smell possible. And I think that there's like a plateau where something becomes so horrid, you gag, you retch, you just become incapacitated through the smell. You could do that very easily if you were connected directly to them. But let's see. The article continues. We've seen high-tech prototypes in the world of multi-sensory technology before. I remember where from molecules mixes that evoke the smell of New York in virtual reality to reprogrammable scent cartridges released during a movie. I've seen those as well. To gas masks for we're not going to say that sentence. But they said that, but most of these involve a chemical mix to make the scent, where instead of physical scent mixing, they're hoping that you can have smellable internet involve sticking electrodes up your nose to touch and simulate neurons deep inside your nasal passages. Essentially, that's how smell works. It's your sinuses and your receptors get a familiar scent, and then those scents are patterns, and those patterns are then triggered in your brain. It really doesn't have to smell one way or another. It's just your pattern recognition in your brain saying that smells like what a rose smells like before. So this smells like a rose again. Here's the smell. They're hoping to activate that from person to person. They said that shoving electrodes deep into nasal passages is obviously not the most user-friendly way to transmit digital smells, but the research team hopes to make the electrodes smaller and more flexible or stimulate the brain directly. No invasive nose cords required. Obviously, there's a few iterations of this prototype before this is ready to hit the market. But if nothing else, you can be sure that this is not a dead end of research. being able to smell things in virtual reality or even just in a catalog. Be it your local florist or Bath and Body Works or whatever smelly good place that you can think of. Not having the ability to touch something, hold something, look at something, and smell something like you can in a physical store is the last remaining barrier. Well, that and, being able to walk out the door with it. But if you can remove that and, kind of bring that down, it's going to it's going to change online retail, because you would be able to smell something if it's meant to be smelled before actually buying it or touching it. And of course that's aside from all the possibilities in terms of, again, virtual reality and putting you in a place. They mentioned that you'd be able to smell as if you were actually within New York City, which I assume smells like air pollution and I don't know, people yelling at you. But it's just another step towards a very, very immersive future of technology. And with that being said, that was a fun story. I think, let's see if we have any more fun ones, because it is a Friday. Again, I hope everyone out there is ready for the weekend. But let's see, another fun one. We have this one here. And yeah, let's do this one, and then we'll talk about the TSA. I know, everyone's favorite subject. So, I know what you're thinking. Everyone out there, you have been living life. It's a sham. It's a shell of what you really expected to do with yourself. And you realize that missing gaping hole that would make you complete as a person, on this earth, is the fact that you don't own a robotic submarine. I know. I've been there. I get that feeling. Well, hey, maybe this contest that Nat Geo and OpenROV are doing may just help you feel complete again. Nat Geo and OpenROV are giving away 1,000 robot submarines. I would hope that only people near the coast would be interested in these, although I guess you could use them in lakes and rivers and things like that. But still, I found this pretty cool. They said that despite having lived in close proximity to it for hundreds of thousands of years, humanity has yet to explore even a fraction of the Earth's oceans. Yeah, because it's full of plastic. Why do we ever go into the Earth's oceans? That's disgusting. It's full of trash. I'm kidding. It's sad, but it's true, but whatever. We have more thoroughly mapped the surface of the moon and Mars than we have the sea floor. Although I think we've done a pretty good job of the sea floor now with, not with LiDAR, but with sonar. But I digress. The Nat Geo and OpenROV hope to change that next year with the Science Exploration Education, or the SEA Initiative. I like how they did that. SEE, the SEA Initiative. The organizations are teaming up to give away 1,000 remotely operated underwater drones to any research organization or citizen scientist who wants one. And obviously, as well, there are still some in stock. So that's the catch. Citizen scientists, you have to prove that you in some way are going to not just play with this thing once and put it away in your closet, but actually try to conduct some exploration if you were to have access to a $1,700 robotic submarine. They, and you're right, as Fort in the chat room says, and not just throw it up on eBay for $1,000 a week later. They said that. So they had, quote, one of the limiting factors for understanding the ocean is the risk, cost, and accessibility issues of experiencing these underwater ecosystems. Many researchers, and the quote continues, many researchers, citizen scientists, and underfunded conservation efforts don't have the resources to monitor, study, and explore. And he said that's where the SEA Initiative is coming in and trying to help and empower these people to do so. The article here, it's in the show notes, has a link to it, but let's see. I believe it'll be run through the Nat Geo's Open Explorer platform. You can see that here on the video portion. You can kind of check that out there. But let's see, how do you actually get one? They said that which enables users to document, share, and promote their field of work in the general public. So let's see, the key. All right. I think that's about where we are going to kind of end this story. But essentially, they said that each submission, and by the way, the key initiative is designed to get those out to conservation groups, early career researchers, folks who otherwise couldn't afford it. He said, as such, all applicants, so you have to apply to receive one of these, really need to do is go on to the Open Explorer and start an expedition. Each submission will be reviewed and appraised by a team of scientists who will award an open ROV Trident to the 1,000 most worthy expedition ideas at a rate of about 50 units a month. I'm not an expert on open ROV, and actually I'm going to make a bookmark here to kind of get them on the show to see what's up. But 1,000 units, that's great. 50 a month, that would take about 20 months. So about a little bit under 2 years, and all of these will be given out. Pretty cool. Again, very, very nice. I hope that a lot of people get their hands on these things that otherwise wouldn't have them. Seems like they're being very judicious. They are not just simply throwing them out into the ecosystem and saying, "Hey, here's a submarine. See what you can do with it." No, you have to have a very clear and concise idea of how you would use one of these and how it would benefit you. So definitely check that out. Let's see. And do you know about the Galaxy Zoo projects? I don't know about the Galaxy Zoo, but I'll definitely check that out. But yeah, everyone, you can again link in the show notes. If you are a citizen scientist, you can you can definitely do that. Now, let's see. So that was a fun story. 2 fun stories in a row. Congratulations. Happy Friday. Glad I could help you out here. Let us discuss, let's see, the TSA. Yeah, that was the next story I really wanted to get to. And as much as I'm not precisely a tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist, unfortunately, in my line of work, I do read a lot and I have to dig into stories. And the more that I do this, unfortunately, the more I feel like I need to go get a roll of tinfoil to protect myself in my head. And this is another one. So this is labeled under privacy over at Techdirt, Mr. Tim Cushing. TSA, you've heard of them. They announced plans to subject domestic travelers to biometric screening. And they said that as promised or threatened, as they said, the DHS or the Department of Homeland Security is moving forward with expanded use of biometric scanning at airports, including facial recognition and fingerprint machines, which what was touted as a way to combat international terrorism and illegal immigration will now include those on the home front, as the tech spreads to include U.S. citizens on domestic flights. But the TSA doesn't see this as an unwanted incursion into the lives of innocent citizens. Instead, it pitches it as a useful tool to speed up security screenings at TSA checkpoints. And they have a quote here saying that, quote, TSA says that by moving toward facial recognition technology in a time where travel volume is rising, it's hoping to reduce the need for physical documents like passports and paper tickets. And currently, TSA manually compares the passengers in front of them to their photo IDs. But it believes an automated process that can match facial images to photos from passports and visa applications will be more accurate and efficient. Now, that is undoubtedly true. Not going to knock the TSA too much because I think plenty of other people do it better than I could. But the TSA is very, very well known for being poor at what it is that they do. There have been, practice things where they were trying to sneak weapons through TSA checkpoints, and it had almost 100% success rate. The TSA, but hey, if you try to get a water bottle past them, they will take you out faster than you know what to do with yourself. Everything else that is kind of iffy or not so common, not so usual, they struggle. Now, when it says that facial recognition and fingerprint scanning would be quicker and more efficient, that's true. But I think the problem that a lot of other civil liberties unions or privacy advocates have a problem with this is the fact that biometric data cannot be changed in a lot of cases. Your fingerprint is your fingerprint. You can't get that back. You can't change that. It is yours forever. Your face, the way that your face is constructed without a plastic surgeon, that is your face until the day you die. And facial recognition has gotten to the point where it's very easy to dissect one from another. And the TSA, being an arm of the federal government, is undoubtedly sharing that data with other members of the federal government. And this leads us to the idea of, was it the Fourth Amendment? The idea that you shouldn't be searched illegally or without due cause. And yeah, this is just a person being constantly monitored from the day that they step out their front door to the day that they go back into their house. And in a lot of cases, we have another story that we're not going to get to, I believe. It's talking about smart home makers are hoarding your data and whether or not they're actually submitting that data to law enforcement. But this is new territory. I can't even look at this and say that, hey, this is something that, it's happened before and it's gone okay. We have seen topics like this, and you can look at China and see just how bad it can go, from bad to worse, when you start to immediately identify people who could be oppressed. And yeah, again, check out what's happening in China. But so they have another quote here. This is from the TSA's roadmap for expanded biometric screening. So again, from the TSA and airline partners verify traveler identity primarily by processing biographic data and inspecting physical identity and travel documents. So essentially, that's currently so biographic would be things like your age and country of origin, things like that, and then also your physical identity and your travel documents. So do you look like your ID? They said that the use of biometric technology will simplify the passenger experience and increase efficiency and security effectiveness. Let's see. So the roadmap focuses on 4 main goals, and we're not going to get into those, but essentially, yeah, they're moving full steam ahead on this. Is social score indeed. So yes, the paying members of the TSA PreCheck program will be the first to enhance their travel experience, all in quotes. The article is being very cheeky about this, by feeding their faces into a database the TSA controls, using tech prone to erroneous conclusions, which, if you want to look at facial recognition and how poorly it can go, there was a study in the UK that showed that 97 or 99% of the time, it got people's faces wrong. This is going to cause a lot of headaches at the very beginning. But other travelers won't be able to opt out of biometric screening, saying that they'll just be subject to the non-enhanced travel experience where the TSA and CBP officers ask a long series of invasive questions and infer suspicious behavior on the part of travelers who bypass the biometric kiosk. So you can not do that, but essentially what the article is pointing at is that if you refuse to do the biometric screening and provide your biometric data, they are going to make it so cumbersome and awful that really your only true option is either stand in this line for a long time and be invaded, kind of privately, or take the short, quick, very invasive biometric choice. And again, a lot of people are not tech savvy enough to understand what it is that they're actually giving away. So it's true that traveling in the US has always been a papers, please experience, but prior to the 9/11 attacks, this simply meant presenting a ticket before boarding. Now it's everything about everybody, no matter how useless this information is 99% of the time. And rather than move towards smarter screening methods, the TSA has decided to subject everyone to the same level of screening with the same arbitrary rules stemming from airborne attacks the TSA failed to prevent. Now, the TSA pitches this as a paperless airport, but it's really just another way for the government to compile a massive database identifying info and of citizens' movements. The DHS likes to talk about its 96% accuracy target, but has released no information about actual accuracy in tests run. Concerns about false positives, negatives aren't going away anytime soon. As I said at the beginning, I used to be not so conspiracy theory minded. But through Project Prism, through the National Security Agency, the NSA, through Edward Snowden revelations, and a lot more, there is a database out there that is collecting driver's license photos, that are collecting, you can look at the Equifax hacks and see that they, even institutions such as Equifax were collecting information not previously known, like, people's wages, which, really isn't something that Equifax would even know in the first place, and they're sharing their data more and more. Every bit of data about a person will be attributed to you as an individual, and you will never have the right to privacy again. There are ways to stop this, but hey, it's might be too late. So, yep, and there you have it. Okay, so we have time for just one more article. Not a lot of time. Let's see, any of these really catch my eye here. How about we talk? All right, how about we end on some good news? I like solar energy. I don't know many people who don't, unless their portfolio is heavily invested into traditional energy sources. But solar power, and this is a very cool article. Not going to be able to get to all of it, but I want to bring it to your attention. A new material could up efficiency of concentrated solar power, saying that this could allow us to generate electricity using supercritical carbon dioxide. And while I don't strictly know what supercritical carbon dioxide is, it sounds super critically cool, and maybe it's something that we should kind of pay attention to. But they have they have some of these solar arrays kind of here on the website. If you're looking, imagine giant rows of solar actually these might be solar mirrors or solar panels. I'm not too sure about this, but essentially they all point sun towards a central tower that is illuminated like crazy. It gets super hot and super heated, and through that you create steam through water that is pumped into these stations, and the steam then of course turns turbines, and you get hey, much like nuclear energy, you get a lot of energy. It's clean, it's efficient, and pretty darn cool. But I guess what they're getting at here is that the materials currently used to heat up and turn that water into steam is not the best conductor, which is why now we have this idea of transferring heat using let's see, what did they call it again? They said supercritical carbon dioxide. So just a couple of choice pieces here. They say that this works more efficiently, potentially providing a boost of more than 20%, but requires temperatures in excess of 1,000 Kelvin. That makes things a bit more challenging, given that many metals will melt at such temperatures. Others will react with carbon dioxide under these conditions. So everyone, the music means that we're just about done here. But yeah, a lot of fun. Everyone out there, thank you so much for tuning into Computer America. It's nowhere to plug them in at. Right. Yeah, and of course electric cars. But everyone, we're done here. Thank you so much for tuning into Computer America. I hope all of you had fun, and be sure to catch us next week with a ton more interviews, more computer, more technology, and yeah, looking forward to it. Have a great weekend. Go catch a movie. Eat some good food. Stay inside if it's hot. Stay inside if it's cold. In fact, just stay inside. We like computers. Everyone, until next time, have a great day. Glad that you could join us. Bye-bye, everyone.